Sean P. Diddy Combs fights back. He says it's unconstitutional. His attorney wants an acquittal. Ladies and gentlemen, they overstepped their bounds 5 times and nobody paid attention to it because they were in their emotions. This is insane, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into some of this straight game.
Life is like the cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy Delray Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And like I always say, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and click on what appears to be that little bell notification right below this video. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news. Sean P. Diddy Combs' attorneys have filed another motion to overturn the conviction, ladies and gentlemen. We've seen a lot these past couple of months. We've heard a lot these past couple of months in regards to freak-offs, in regards to a bunch of lies, in regards to a bunch of speculation, innuendo, hate, jealousy, contradictory statements, and all of these other things, right? But when you get down to the law and dealing with the facts, you got to understand that this case is a rare case, right? So Diddy's legal team filed a motion to overturn the conviction, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, an unconstitutional freak-off case. And as you know, we were living through the trial, I was saying all along, I'm like, why is all of this stuff coming up? Like, this is not what this is supposed to be about. Once again, the case was tried in the media before it was ever tried in the court. They tried to dirty up the jury pool. They tried to do a whole bunch of things. I don't say that to side with Diddy. I say that to understand and what it means to get a fair trial. You got to understand, if they did that to Diddy with his millions of dollars, right? What could they do to the average person? You don't stand a chance. You don't, with a public defender who's getting paid by the state or the government, you don't stand a chance. You don't stand a chance. And like I said, once again, he had 10 attorneys. They basically had 6 women, right? So like I said, what's good to all of the subscribers on the channel, your boy Delray here. Like I said, you tune into another explosive episode where we give you the raw, real, and unfiltered. Smash the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications because today's episode is one for the books, and we want you to understand that. Like I said, we're diving straight into the breaking update. Sean P. Diddy Combs and what his legal team just pulled in court. That's right. Diddy is asking the judge to either toss out the verdict or give him a brand new trial before sentencing even happens. Let's get into it. You know what I mean? Like I said, once again, so that we understand, what did Diddy's team actually file, right? We've seen before this motion here, they basically filed a bail motion. So they're coming with the game, and what they're basically doing, they're saying, okay, look, we're gonna ask you for 3 things, you know, and if you don't give us one of these 3, right, we know that this is an unfair process. We know that this is a process based on biasness, right? So they're asking for bail, they're asking for an acquittal, or they're asking for a new trial, right? So they're asking for 3 things. And they're going to see, okay, cool. Let's file all 3 of these motions and see if we can get one. If we don't get 1 out of 3, there's a problem. So first of all, one has to understand those optics and the legal strategy in which Diddy team is moving forward with and asking for this. I don't think a lot of people grasp that, though. He's asking for 3 things, So Wednesday night, Diddy's legal team filed a massive, listen to me, so you know they've been working on it for a while, a massive 62-page memorandum arguing that his conviction was not only unfair, but unconstitutional and completely unprecedented, right? They say the government made him look like a monster, accused him of running a racketeering enterprise and sex trafficking ring. But in the end, he was only convicted of 2 Mann Act violations for transporting people across state lines to engage in prostitution. Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. I told y'all in the beginning, and I'm talking about law. I'm not talking about personalities, how you feel about somebody or what. I told you they did the same thing to Tupac Shakur in his state case with the young lady that he was dealing with and happened that time. Everything was consensual, right? The night that happened, there was nothing that really happened, but that didn't stop him from charging him with all of those charges, and then tried to ask Tupac, just like they asked Sean Combs, to take a plea deal. Tupac was like, no, I didn't do nothing wrong. Diddy was like, no, he didn't do nothing wrong. Once again, right? With the fear of what might happen or what might happen if you were convicted and all of this, like I say, they play on that fear, right? Tupac nor Diddy went for either of those options as far as pleading goes. I'm talking about the law. I'm not talking about the personalities, whether you like Diddy or like Tupac or none of those things. We're talking facts here, right? Listen, they say the government made him look like a monster, accused him of racketeering, running a racketeering enterprise and sex trafficking ring, but in the end, he was only convicted of 2 Mann Act violations of transporting people across state lines to engage in prostitution. Now, Tupac, same thing. They charged him with the R word and all of these other charges, but what did they end up getting for Tupac? Forcibly touching her on the buttocks, right? A sodomy or something like that, right? This is somebody that he had a relationship with in Ayanna Jackson. Diddy, same thing. This is somebody he had a relationship with in Jane, Daphne Joy, and Cassie Ventura, right? That the government, that the government chose to change the narrative of what it was and what it meant, right? So they charged and used Cassie and Jane them and all of these other people as witnesses. You don't believe what I'm saying to you? You got to go over to the Art of Dialogue right now and watch him having Daniel Phillips and the brother Clayton Howard over there right now telling you exactly what happened and how it went down inside those rooms. I think that's very important for people to understand because they're not really understanding what really happened, and they wanted to see it from the slant in which they saw it from. We know the domestic violence was wrong, period. They admitted to that. Diddy's team admitted to that. Point blank, period, right? There's no excuse for it. But when you deal with the facts and what the government alleged, right, they basically overcharged, hoping that they could throw shit against the wall to see if it would stick. It didn't stick, right? So now Diddy's team is coming back and they're saying, hey, hold on for a minute. Remember, Tupac did the same thing. Remember, when he was convicted, immediately Tupac asked for bail to appeal it. What did they do? They denied it. They sent Tupac to jail, right? Tupac case then went for another judge, right? Basically, and he was granted bail. Isn't that crazy? And the same thing, the same exact thing is happening during this Diddy case. The only difference is one is state and one is federal. You got to look at the playbook that they use. I'm talking about the playbook, right? Most people can't comprehend that because they're so emotionally involved. It's like, you got to look at what's going on. You know, look at how many charges they laid, people are so blown away by the sensationalism in the media. Oh man, they charged him with 5, 7, because it's something to talk about. But when you really understand what it is, that's why I said in the beginning, I reserve my right to judgment because I don't know what he did. I wasn't there. I know what's being alleged, but I wasn't there, right? So now, I need you to let that sink in. What they charged him with versus what he was convicted of, right? Let that sink in, right? The more serious charges, we know racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. The jury said no to those. Zero, no, not even hardly, right? Now, the legal breakdown, right? We know what the Mann Act. The Mann Act's been around since 1910, supposed to stop forced prostitution and trafficking across state lines. But Diddy's lawyers are saying this. Listen to what they're saying, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't make any money from it, right? Usually the Mann Act is, basically dealing with situations where pimping and pandering and stuff like that. Number one, Diddy's lawyers are saying he didn't make any money from it. Number two, everybody that was involved was an adult. Point blank period, right? Number three, it was consensual. We heard the testimony, right? And number four, and the acts were part of a swinger's lifestyle, not a criminal enterprise. All of that criminal enterprise, the sad part, you would think that the prosecution would have, I don't know if they thought we was in like a dark room for the past 30 years. We seen the come up. If you were around, maybe the younger generation, wouldn't understand. We seen them come up with Bad Boy, Sean John, all of the other things that he kind of, merged into, if you will, after the success of the records and so on and so forth. So it's like a criminal enterprise. Like, what are they talking about? When they said that, it was like criminal enterprise. So what you mean? He running a some kind of brothel situation? We simply, if you knew or wanted to know, because a lot of people don't want to know the truth. They just want to go by, this old crazy clickbait and all of this old crazy stuff, right? You knew that wasn't true. Like enterprise, like, hold on, what? What do you mean? We seen him on the red carpet at the Met with Cassie, right? We knew they was an item, right? But like I said, they still proceeded with what they did. Listen, Diddy's lawyers are basically arguing that what he did might be considered morally questionable, right? So the acts that he did, they basically were morally questionable, right? By some, but not criminal. They were not criminal. Just because you don't engage in that don't mean that what he did was criminal because you don't like it or I don't like it, right? Hey, like I said, that's what he's doing in his own bedroom. And there was a lot of stuff that was revealed that you would have thought, like, why are they talking about this? So why are they asking them about what they do with the semen and all of this? What does that have to do with the charges of racketeering, right? And all of these, it had nothing to do with it. It was an attempt to embarrass somebody, right? To expose somebody. And I guess you would say that they did that, right? But it didn't work to their advantage in the long run, meaning what I say that by they, the prosecution. Listen, it was not criminal. And more importantly, they claim it's never been prosecuted like this before. So they're saying, truly, honestly, this is unprecedented. It's never been prosecuted like this before, ladies and gentlemen, right? And you got to understand why would I say that? Not why would I say it, but what did the victim, what the victim say? What did the alleged victim say? Now let's be clear. Cassie Ventura and another woman who testified as Jane said they did not want to have sex with other men during these freak-offs. They said Diddy was violent and controlling and they were scared to say no because of his power over their careers and finances, right? Right? That's what they said. If you watch the court case, this was being said. There was even surveillance footage from a hotel in 2016, the Intercontinental Hotel, showing Cassie bruised and clearly in distress, right? And being domestically assaulted, right? But the jury didn't buy the trafficking narrative. You got to understand, they didn't buy the trafficking narrative, ladies and gentlemen, right? We heard, she was dealing with Kid Cudi, all of those things. So what they wanted us to believe was one thing, but not believe the other, right? So listen, Diddy's defense, the first in this motion being filed and saying that it's unconstitutional and asking for a new trial, right? Or to be acquitted, right? Diddy's defense, the First Amendment and amateur porn. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where it gets wild. The defense says that the so-called freak-off videos that were played during the trial aren't evidence of coercion. They're not. That's how they were presented, though. if you go back and you have time to sit and look at, what was presented, and then now you have time to kind of, look back on it. They said that, these videos were coercion. No, they weren't, right? Right? The defense says the so-called freak-off videos that were played during the trial aren't evidence of coercion, right? But amateur porn. And because of that, they say it's protected by the First Amendment. Those videos that they made during that time had nothing to do with nobody being sex trafficked, ladies and gentlemen. It didn't. It didn't. That was videos, of them and their sex life and what happened behind. It didn't have nothing to do with that. It didn't have nothing to do with that. So they even claimed that the videos were choreographed, creative, and expressive, not illegal. Yo. Huh? This is what Diddy's team is arguing, right? The defense is basically saying, if making a sex tape with your girl and watching it later is a crime, then half of the industry needs to be locked up. That's true. Or you and your girlfriend need to be locked up. Right? Because the government basically can put whatever narrative they want on that tape. If they came to your house and found it, they was like, oh no, they made a sex tape. Oh man, he coerced her into doing this and they doing this. Oh, they went from LA to Miami, and this was made in Miami, but you live here. Oh, that's interstate sex. You can come up with any kind of narrative you want to. Point blank, period. And remember, this whole case was drafted from Cassie's civil case, in which she was seeking compensation, in which she received. Then the government took it, dittoed it, copied it, and said, okay, we got sex trafficking here. Right? That's basically what they did. But like I say, but Diddy's defense team is saying, basically saying, if making a sex tape with your girl and watching it later is a crime, then half of the industry needs to be locked up. Point blank, period. Right? So I need to ask y'all a question, and you can chime down. Is this a real strategy or a delay or redemption, ladies and gentlemen? What is it, right? So what's really going on here? Is Diddy trying to delay the sentencing? I don't think so. The inevitable is going to happen. Me personally, I don't think so. But could be a tactic. Who knows? Is he laying the groundwork for an appeal? Or is this part of a bigger PR and legal redemption play? It could be all of the above. But once again, for Diddy's team to file this motion, they need legal statutes, right, and precedent to be able to argue this. Like I said, Mark Knopfler did an interview recently, and he was basically saying that they had went over like 100 cases, and in no case involving the Mann Act had it ever been tried and somebody convicted like this and still in jail with no bail. So now, like I said, what they're doing is 3 shots: the bail, the acquittal, and a new trial. Like I said, they're asking for 3 new things, and the judge can come up and say no to all of them if he wants to. Like I said, but once again, hopefully he goes by the law. And once again, we cannot forget that Donald Trump is watching, ladies and gentlemen. So you mean to tell me he's available for none of these remedies? Based on the facts, based on everything that happened, based on what the government said he did, based on what he was convicted of, right? You got to understand and remember, Diddy hasn't been sentenced yet. If the judge throws this out or even grants a new trial, it could shake up everything we've seen so far, right? So let me tell me, you know what? In the comments, tell me what you guys think, right? Let me know what you think. Is this a valid legal argument or just desperation from Diddy's legal team? Should the judge toss out the conviction, or should Diddy walk? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and tap the bell so you won't miss the next episode of Straight Gang TV. More importantly, like I said, we've seen the bail. Him putting up the $50 million mansion for the bail. Trying to get bail. So there's 3 bites at the apple Diddy's trying to get. And like I said, if he's denied all three, you can best believe that Donald Trump will possibly pardon him and then go Ghislaine Maxwell, right? You're gonna get a 2-for-1 here, is my prediction, right? Don't quote me on that, but like I said, once again, you're gonna get a 2-for-1, right? Like I said, this your boy Delray. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. We're gonna see what happens with this. And like I said, if you understand and know the law, a little bit about the law, and you understand the facts, you're gonna see how crazy this was. And based on what they said, everything was happening. Like I said, you had Courtney Burgess, you had Ariel Mitchell, you had all of these people going on, all of these networks, the fake book that they put out, all of those things, right? Talking about Diddy, they had video of Diddy with underage kids and all of that. None of that was true. All of that was paraded in front of the media, the public, to basically dirty up the jury, to get people to think that it was more crazier than it actually was. None of that was true, and nobody's talking about that right now. You see how that works? See, when they have an agenda to try to pull over, they'll do it, and then go on to the next story. Right? Now that it didn't work, you don't hear it no more. And so, like I said, once again, we're going to follow this closely, ladies and gentlemen. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in. Your boy Delray, straight game.
Life is like those cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother